The moment before everything changed, the sky above Los Angeles was painted in soft gold as the sun began to set. The air buzzed with excitement. The red carpet event for their new film was moments away, and the world was watching. Photographers lined up outside the Grand Theater, their flashes ready, their voices sharp. Fans pressed against the barricades, screaming names, hoping for one glance, one smile, one memory. Inside the hotel, just a few blocks away, Ana de Armas stood alone in front of a full-length mirror, breathing slowly, trying to calm the storm inside her. Her stylist had left just minutes ago. Everything had seemed perfect. The soft, silky gown she wore shimmered in the light. Ouch. It was hand-stitched, flown in from Paris, fitted perfectly to her body. She had imagined walking down the carpet beside Keanu, hearing the crowd cheer, watching the cameras flash. But none of that would happen now. A sharp sound, like paper tearing, broke the silence. Ana looked down and felt the blood rush from her face. The delicate seam running along her hip had split. It wasn't small. It was wide, jagged, and impossible to hide. She gasped. Her hands flew to cover the tear, but it was useless. Panic washed over her like cold rain. She sat down, quickly on the edge of the bed, hands shaking. She didn't cry, not yet, but her eyes filled up. The event was less than 20 minutes away. There was no backup dress, no seamstress on standby, no way to fix it. All the months of preparation, the pressure, the expectations, all of it collapsing in a single rip of fabric. She thought of skipping the whole thing, calling the manager, saying she was sick. But she knew what that would mean. People would talk. The press would write stories. She'd be called unprofessional, dramatic, maybe even worse. She had worked too hard for too long to let that happen. But she couldn't go out like this, not with cameras everywhere, not with a ripped dress that made her feel exposed and embarrassed. Then there was a soft knock on the door. 3 gentle taps. She froze. Only one person knocked like that, Ana. The voice was quiet, warm. "It's me, Keanu." She rushed to the door and opened it just enough so he couldn't see inside. He looked calm, dressed in a classic black suit that somehow made him look both elegant and unbothered. His hair was neatly pulled back, and his eyes were filled with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked, sensing something was wrong. She hesitated. "My dress ripped," she whispered. "I can't go out there like this." He said nothing at first, just nodded slightly. Then he gently pushed the door open wider and stepped inside. She backed away, still covering the tear with her hands. She expected him to panic, to suggest calling someone or ask a dozen questions. But he didn't tell, walked over to her, knelt down in front of the bed and carefully examined the damage. He didn't look embarrassed. He didn't act strange. He treated the moment like it was just another small problem to solve. "Don't worry," he said softly. "We've got time." "We don't," she whispered, voice cracking. "We're supposed to be on the carpet in 15 minutes. He stood up, walked to the closet, and pulled out a dark coat, one of his own. Long, clean, simple. Brought it to her and said, "Put this over the dress. But just trust me," he said. "You look beautiful. Nobody's going to see the tear. And if they ask about the coat, we'll say it's part of the look." Ana stared at him. "You'd really do that? Wear a coat on the red carpet? For me?" Keanu smiled gently, of course. It's just a coat, but she knew it wasn't. It was a shield. It was his way of telling the world. She's not alone. She's protected. Ana slipped the coat on. It was heavy, warm. The sleeves were long and the hem brushed against her ankles. But most importantly, it hid the tear. Completely, Keanu offered his hand. She took it, still in disbelief. "Thank you," she said. He didn't respond with words. He just gave her the kind of look that said everything: kindness without condition, respect without pride. As they walked out of the hotel together, hand in hand, Ana realized something. This wasn't about a dress or a red carpet or even the film. It was about who showed up when everything went wrong. And Keanu had shown up without saying a single unnecessary word. The flash of cameras greeted them at the end of the street. The crowd erupted in cheers. But as they walked down the red carpet, Ana didn't hear any of it. All she could feel was the quiet strength beside her, the coat wrapped around her body, and the beating of her heart that no one else could see. And for the first time that evening, she smiled. Not for the cameras, not for the press, but for herself. Whispers behind the flash carpet was blinding. Flashes went off like fireworks, every second a burst of white light in their eyes. Voices shouted their names, photographers waving their arms, reporters holding out microphones. Keanu kept his hand gently on Anna's back, steadying her as they moved forward. No one noticed the coat at first. Most people were too focused on their faces, their chemistry, silence. But silence makes people curious. Within minutes, the whispers began. Quiet at first, then louder. One reporter leaned toward a colleague and muttered, "What's with the coat?" Another raised her brow, zooming in on her camera. Wasn't that dress supposed to be sleeveless? Others scrolled through earlier photos from the press preview and spotted the difference. Anna kept her eyes ahead. Her face soft, her breath slow, but inside she was terrified. She felt like she was walking through glass. One wrong step, and everything could shatter. She gripped Keanu's arm a little tighter, and he immediately leaned in, whispering something just for her. "You're doing great. We've got this." Those words shouldn't have meant much. But in that moment, they held her together. They made their way to the interview section, where the lights were harsher and the questions sharper. Anna braced herself. And sure enough, the first reporter smiled too widely and asked, "Anna, you look stunning tonight, but we have to ask. The coat. Is it a new fashion trend?" Anna hesitated. Keanu looked at her and gave her a small nod, as if saying, "Whatever you say, I'll back you up." She smiled, a soft laugh escaping. "Let's just say sometimes the best accessory is comfort." The reporters chuckled. A few more questions came and went about the movie, about their friendship, about the experience working together. Anna answered each one with grace, but her mind stayed on the coat, on the tear underneath. On what would happen once the event was over. They eventually made it inside the theater. The noise outside faded, replaced by soft music and dim lights. Once the film started, most of the audience turned their focus to the screen, but Anna couldn't watch. She sat still, hands in her lap, coat still wrapped around her, heart still racing. Keanu noticed. He leaned over and whispered, "Want to step outside for a bit?" She nodded. They slipped out quietly. The hallway was empty, lit by a row of soft golden sconces. Anna leaned against the wall and let out a deep breath. "I thought I was going to faint out there." "You didn't," Keanu said gently. He handled it with grace. "You saved me," she replied, her voice almost breaking. He shook his head. "You saved yourself. I just brought a coat." Anna looked at him, her eyes moist now. "You always know the right thing to do. It's like you see things no one else sees." Keanu didn't respond right away. He stared at the floor for a second, then said, "I've been through enough moments where nobody helped. I promised myself I'd never let someone I care about feel that alone." Those words hit deep. Anna didn't speak. She just stood there, letting the warmth of those words settle inside her. Outside, the buzz continued. Online photos of Anna in the coat began spreading. Some people were curious, some joked, some praised her for starting a new fashion trend. But then, someone leaked an earlier backstage photo, one that showed the rip dot within minutes. It was everywhere. Anna's phone began buzzing nonstop. Headlines popped up. Wardrobe malfunction? Anna's red carpet mystery explained. Was Keanu covering for her? She stared at the screen, heart pounding. "It's out," she whispered. Keanu took the phone from her gently, read the headline, and handed it back. "Does it matter?" he asked. Anna looked up. "I don't know." "Well, it shouldn't," he said. "It was a tear. It happens. What matters is how you handled it. People are going to say things," she replied. "They always do," he said, then paused. "But they weren't in that room when it happened. They didn't see you hold it together. They don't know the real story." Anna nodded slowly. "I just hate feeling exposed." Keanu gave a small smile. "You're not. You're human. And tonight you showed people something real." They walked slowly back toward the lobby. Just before they reached the doors, Anna stopped. "You've done a lot for me tonight," she said. more than anyone's done in a long time. Keanu looked at her with that same calm gentleness. "You do the same for me," Anna smiled. "I hope I get the chance." As the night drew on, the world outside kept spinning. Online debates continued. Some mocked, some admired. But in that small hallway, away from the noise, something had shifted. Anna wasn't just grateful, she was changed. Keanu, without asking for credit or recognition, had become a quiet anchor in a moment she thought would drown her. And neither of them knew it yet, but this was only the beginning. The morning after the stormed next morning came too fast. Sunlight poured into Anna's apartment through tall windows. Warm and steady, but inside her chest, the warmth hadn't reached yet. She sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, scrolling. Through what felt like a storm of opinions, comments, photos, headlines, all shouting at her from the screen. Some people had been kind, others not so much. "I would have stayed home if my dress ripped. This is why she needs a better team." Keanu saved the moment. Again, why did she even show up like that? Real elegance is handling chaos with calm. She did that. Anna read them all, even though she told herself not to. There was a strange mix of emotions rising in her: embarrassment, pride, confusion. But the strongest one was uncertainty. She didn't know what this moment would become. Would it be a scandal? A meme? Would people forget by next week? Or would this define her in a way she couldn't control? A knock at the door broke the silence. Soft, familiar. She opened it slowly and found Keanu standing there, holding a paper bag and 2 coffee cups. "I figured you didn't want to go outside yet," he said gently. Anna stepped aside and let him in. She didn't say anything at first, just looked at him. Same black hoodie, same calm face, same steady energy that made the chaos seem smaller. "You okay?" he asked, setting the coffee down. "Not sure yet," she replied, sitting at the kitchen table. "Feels like the whole world's staring. Only because they don't understand what really happened," he said. "Doesn't matter if they understand," she whispered. "It's already out there." Keanu handed her a croissant from the bag. "Then maybe it's time to tell your side. Not for them, for you." Anna looked at him. "Do you think I should post something? Helps you breathe easier, yeah? Not to explain or defend, just ... be real." She sat quietly, the smell of coffee and baked bread wrapping around her like a blanket. "I don't know if people want real." Keanu leaned forward. "Then give it to them anyway." That hit deep. Anna took a breath and opened her laptop. She stared at the blank post window, unsure of what to say. Then, without overthinking it, she began typing. "Last night, something went wrong. My dress ripped minutes before the red carpet. I didn't have a backup. I didn't have time to fix it. But I had a friend who showed up with a coat and no judgment." The world saw a moment, but behind that moment was kindness, panic, silence, and strength. Not everything has to be perfect. Sometimes just showing up is brave enough. She hit post and shut the laptop without refreshing the page. "Done," she said softly. Keanu gave a small smile. "Proud of you." The day moved slowly after that, and I tried not to check her phone, but messages came through anyway. Her team, her publicist, her friends, some worried, some supportive. Everyone had something to say. But Anna didn't respond to any of it. Instead, she and Keanu sat by the window, sipping coffee, watching the light shift across the walls. For a few hours, nothing else mattered. But then a call came through. Keanu's phone buzzed. He stepped outside to take it. Anna sat alone, trying not to imagine what the call was about. Maybe a new interview, maybe damage control, maybe nothing. But when Keanu returned, his face had changed. "What is it?" she asked. He sat down slowly. "The studio wants to do a follow-up interview. They want us both to appear. Live." Anna's stomach dropped. "Live? As in real time?" "Yeah," Keanu nodded. "They think the attention could help the movie," Anna bit her lip. "And if I say no, they'll find a way to spin that too," he said honestly. Anna looked down at her hands. They were shaking again, just like the night before. "I don't know if I can face that. Not yet." Keanu reached across the table and gently covered her hand with his. "Then don't do it for them. Do it for yourself. Do it on your own terms. She nodded slowly. Part of her wanted to hide forever. The other part, the one that had stood under those cameras, trembling but strong, whispered that maybe this was her moment to speak. Will you be there? She asked quietly. Beside you the whole time? Said that was all she needed to hear. The decision was made, and in the back of her mind, Anna knew something bigger had begun. Not just a response to a ripped dress or a sudden headline, but a shift inside herself. It's the kind that stays, the kind that grows. Live and unfiltered day of the interview came faster than Anna expected. The studio had chosen a soft-lit morning show, known for its relaxed tone and thoughtful hosts. It's nothing too sharp, nothing too tabloid, just questions. But even soft questions could cut deep when the world was already watching. Anna stood in front of her mirror again, this time in a different outfit. Simple, elegant, strong, no flowing dress, no fragile seams. Just a fitted black top and dark trousers. Neat, quiet. Deliberate. She didn't want attention. She wanted truth. Keanu waited outside her apartment in a black car. When she climbed in, he looked at her and smiled softly. You ready? No, she said honestly, but I'm going anyway. Keanu nodded. That's more than enough. As they drove through the quiet morning streets of Los Angeles, Anna stared out the window. Every building, every sidewalk, seemed to blur together. Oh, her mind wasn't here. It was still in that hotel room days ago, hearing the sound of the tear, feeling her heart collapse. And now she was about to talk about it in front of millions. She glanced at Keanu, sat still, calm, as if nothing could shake him. He didn't try to distract her with small talk, just gave her space, and somehow that helped more than words. At the studio, the producer greeted them with nervous energy. We'll go live in 10 minutes, she said, motioning them to the backstage lounge. The host will start soft. Just follow your heart. Anna smiled politely, but her heart was pounding so loud she barely heard the rest. As they sat together in the green room, Keanu turned to her. Want to practice anything? Kana shook her head. If I start rehearsing, I'll break. He nodded. Then speak from the heart. That's always been your strongest voice. Minutes later, they were led to the stage. A round table. 2 soft chairs. A host with kind eyes and a calming voice. Cameras hovered just beyond the lights. Anna sat on one side, Keanu on the other. The red live light came on. Good morning, everyone, the host began. Today we're joined by 2 beloved stars, Ana de Armas and Keanu Reeves, who lit up the red carpet earlier this week in more ways than one. Anna breathed in slowly. Anna, the host, continued. There's been a lot of talk since the event, and yesterday, your honest post touched many. But we'd love to hear your experience in your own words. Anna looked at the host, then the camera, then Keanu, and then she spoke. My dress ripped minutes before we were supposed to leave, she said, her voice clear and calm. Panicked. I froze. I felt like everything was falling apart. But Keanu was there. He didn't ask 100 questions. He didn't make a scene. He just handed me his coat and stood beside me. The host leaned in slightly. How did that feel, walking out like that? Anna smiled softly. It felt terrifying at first. Everyone could see through me. But then I realized people weren't staring at the tear. They were watching how we handled it. And I think we forget how powerful kindness can be in those moments. The host turned to Keanu. And you? Did you plan that? Or was it instinct? Keanu chuckled gently. I didn't think much. I just saw someone I care about hurting. I knew the cameras wouldn't matter as much. Is how she felt in that moment. Anna looked at him, eyes shining. You made me feel safe when I felt broken. He nodded quietly. We all need that sometimes. The host smiled. This has become more than just a red carpet story. People are calling it a lesson in grace. What do you want people to take away from it? Anna paused. Maybe that it's okay when things go wrong. Maybe that vulnerability isn't weakness. And maybe when you show up for someone, even with something as simple as a coat, you might be changing their whole story. There was a long silence in the studio, the kind of silence that says more than applause. Then the host closed the segment, The red live light blinked off. Anna exhaled, her shoulders finally dropping. Keanu looked at her and said softly, "You did it?" She smiled. "We did." The ride back was quiet again, but lighter. Something had shifted. By the time they reached Anna's apartment, her phone was already buzzing. Messages of support, clips from the interview. Headlines with words like strength, grace, and real. But she didn't open any of them. Not yet. She sat beside Keanu in the car and whispered, "Thank you. Not just for that night, for this too." Shh. Keanu smiled, then looked out the window. "You didn't just recover. You inspired." Anna looked down at her hands, no longer shaking. "For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm standing on my own." Keanu turned back to her. "You always were. I just reminded you." The car pulled to a stop. Neither of them moved right away. Outside, the world was still talking, still watching. But inside that car, there was nothing but peace, and the beginning of something even deeper. Quiet after the noise of 3 days passed. The world had moved on. At least that's what it looked like on the outside. The headlines faded. The memes died down. The next big scandal took over the internet, and Anna's story slipped into memory. Replaced by something louder, but not for Anna. Inside her heart, something was still changing. She sat in a small cafe tucked away in a quiet part of the city, her phone face down on the table, untouched. No makeup, no glam team. Just a hoodie, jeans, and a notebook open in front of her. The kind she used to write in before everything got big, before the awards, before the cameras, before she forgot how much she loved silence. Keanu walked in quietly and sat across from her. He didn't say anything, just offered a soft smile, then nodded toward the notebook. "You writing again?" Anna looked at the page and nodded slowly. "Trying. It's been a long time." "Good," Keanu said, sipping from the cup the barista placed in front of him. "You've got a lot to say." "Yeah," she replied, "but not the way people expect." Keanu tilted his head. "How so?" I don't want to give them a speech," she said. "I want to give them something real. Something that doesn't need polish or approval." He leaned back in his chair. "Maybe you already did." Anna thought for a second. "Maybe, but there's more. I just don't know how to say it yet." They sat in silence for a while. It wasn't awkward. It was the kind of silence that only comes when two people trust each other completely. The kind where breathing is enough. The kind where nothing needs fixing. After a while, Anna broke the stillness. "You know what's strange?" "What?" Keanu asked. I'm actually glad it happened." Keanu raised an eyebrow, curious. "Not because of the attention," she said quickly, "but because it forced me to stop hiding. That dress was perfect on the outside. But inside, I was barely holding things together, always trying to be what everyone wanted. And then it ripped. And suddenly I had nothing left to hide behind." Keanu nodded. "Sometimes it takes a break to show us what's been broken for a while." Anna looked at him with a soft, grateful smile. "You always say things like that. Simple but true." "Because I've lived through it," he said. "More than once." Anna's eyes studied his face. For a moment, she remembered how the world saw him calm, kind, unshakable. But sitting across from him now, she saw something deeper. She saw pain he never spoke about, patience built over years, and a quiet sadness that had taught him to be gentle with others. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything," he replied. "Why did you really help me that night?" Keanu took a moment. Then he looked her in the eyes and said, "Because someone once left me alone when I needed them the most. I promised myself I'd never be that person." Anna's throat tightened. "And you weren't. You were the opposite." He smiled softly. "We all need someone who stays." The cafe began to fill up. People started to notice them, a glance here, a whisper there, but neither of them seemed to care. They had carved out their own quiet world in the middle of the noise. As they stood to leave, Anna tucked her notebook under her arm and said, "I think I'm ready to write the full story. Not for the press, not for the fame, just for myself." Keanu nodded. "Do it. You don't owe anyone anything but your truth." Outside, the afternoon sun was warm and steady. The breeze was light, brushing against their faces as they walked. Down the street side by side, Anna paused for a moment and looked up at the sky. You know, the night of the premiere? I thought everything had fallen apart. But maybe it was the first time things were falling into place. Keanu smiled, hands in his pockets. Some stories begin with a disaster, and some friendships, she added, begin with a coat. He chuckled. Well, ... It's your coat now, she laughed, framing it. They kept walking. Slowly, quietly, no rush. Anna felt lighter. Not because the world had moved on, but because she finally had. Not because things were perfect, but because they were honest. And that was more powerful than any red carpet. The last 2 weeks had passed since the red carpet. The city had returned to its usual rhythm. Traffic. Meetings, auditions, premieres, and long days under bright lights. But Anna had found something quieter beneath all that noise. Was waking up differently now, slower, more aware, more herself. This morning she stood in her small home office, staring at the framed black coat that now hung neatly beside her bookshelf. It was pressed, cleaned, perfectly preserved, but she didn't frame it because it was beautiful. She framed it because it reminded her that someone saw her when she was unraveling and stayed. Her phone buzzed on the desk. It was a message. From Keanu? Lunch? No cameras this time, promise. She smiled. Simple. Just like him, they met at a quiet garden cafe, tucked away from everything. He was already seated when she arrived, sipping green tea, looking like he always did, like he'd been waiting all his life, just to sit in peace for a while. Anna sat down across from him. You really like this spot, don't you? She said. It's the only place where nobody pretends, he replied. She opened her bag and pulled out a printed booklet about 20 pages, stapled at the corner. What's that? He asked, curious. The story, she said softly. The one I started writing in the cafe. His face lit up a little, quietly. I called it The Night the World Saw Me, she added. It's not a script. It's not an essay. Just ... me. No roles, no red carpet, just the truth. Keanu reached for the pages gently. Can I read it? Anna nodded. I want you to. I want you to be the first. He scanned the first few lines, then closed it and held it with both hands like it was something fragile. He wrote this for you, he said. But you're going to help so many people with it. Anna looked down. I don't know if I want to release it. Then don't, he said. Or do. Either way. It's already done something important. What? It gave you back your voice. She paused. He was right. For the first time in months, maybe years, she didn't feel like a character. In someone else's story, she wasn't just the beautiful face beside a famous name. She was Anna, fully flawed, healing, real. I also wrote something for you, she said shyly. Pulling a small envelope from her purse, Keanu blinked, surprised. You did. It's a letter, she said. Wrote it after the interview, after the silence. After I realized what you really gave me that night. He held the envelope without opening it. Should I read it now? Whenever you're ready. They sat for a while, not saying much, listening to the soft clink of cups, the wind in the trees. The world moving without pressure. Then Anna broke the quiet. You know what I've learned through all this? Keanu looked at her, waiting. That the most beautiful moments don't happen in front of cameras, she said. They happen in the hallway, when your dress is ripped. Or in a car, when someone doesn't walk away. Or in a quiet cafe, when someone hands you a coat and doesn't make it a big deal. He smiled. Or when someone hands you their truth. Yeah, she whispered. That too. As they stood to leave, Keanu reached out and took her hand. Not for the cameras, not for attention. Just because it felt right. They walked down the stone path of the garden cafe, surrounded by soft trees and warm light. No screaming fans, no flashes, just steps, just peace. And in that quiet space, Anna finally knew the story hadn't been about the dress, the coat, or the headlines. It had been about the people who stay when you're falling apart. About the strength to keep walking, even when the thread comes loose. About learning that you are allowed to be real, even when the world expects you to be perfect, and that sometimes. Love begins not with fireworks or promises, but with silence, kindness, and the simple act of staying.